Anybody who's listening to the
One second
recording,
here,
you're going,
please.
well, what happened then?
I'm on in case we need that to share screens.
I'm not trying to switch to me.
Wow. Surrounding. Hey, thank you all for coming to the Livingston Urban Renewal Agency. Let's start this meeting off with a roll call. Can you hear me? I'm Chair Vicenzi. Allison Vicenzi. Lisa Garcia.
Julie Evans.
Rick Van Akens.
Mute my computer. Okay, great. Okay, so our first item on the agenda is approval of minutes from October 24th meeting. Did everyone have a chance to review those in the agenda packet? Yes. Great. Any comments or feedback? No, it's right either. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the October minutes? Motion to approve the October minutes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, that was very great to have Emily, the city clerk, work on those minutes. They're very thorough. It's nice to have that going forward.
Yeah.
We're not bringing up any new business tonight. The main focus of this meeting is the residential rehabilitation and redevelopment program, which is why many of you are maybe here. So thank you for coming. That is what we are going to dive into. I have a brief presentation just as an overview for some who've seen it before, and yeah, just the highlight of parts of this program, and then we're going to launch into a group discussion. So first share screen, disabled participant screen sharing. Um, Had to allow the privacy and then quit and reopen. So take a second. Thank you. The chat amongst yourselves.
So while
Mhm.
Allison pulls that up, we'll just say, so Allison will give a presentation, but we want this to be more of an open discussion, so you don't have to wait until public comments. There's some questions throughout the presentation. And we welcome open discussion. For the open house portion.
Okay. So now I have to be. Oh, here we go. Okay. Tried to minimize that out of there, but. Okay, so you might have seen these flyers around town. This is one way we tried to promote this open house discussion. We have a couple here as well. If you want to take one, it has the QR code directly to find out where you can get this application and find more about the Urban Renewal Agency in general. We'll also have minutes from this in the recording of today's meeting up there. So just good to have that link, or you can take a picture of the flyer as a follow-up. And welcome. Today's purpose is to review the Residential Rehabilitation and Redevelopment Grant Program, hear your feedback on the program, pass out grant applications. So review two of the current URA program, the URA's two current programs. First is slow down. I take the girl out of the East Coast. We have our facade repair and renovation grants. These are for blight removal, remediation, and prevention. Grants reimbursed up to 50% of the total project cost, up to $100,000, or 100% of projects $1,000 or less. This program's been going on for years. It's been fairly successful, but we also had enough budget to then launch this newer program called the Residential Rehabilitation Grant. We are aiming to encourage the development or redevelopment of underutilized residential spaces. It could be upstairs on a building, it could be infill as a new development, and there are some others that we can talk about. These grants reimburse the participant up to 50% of the total project costs, up to $250,000 per unit. That is just a max number, but it will be determined based upon the available budget, the other projects going on, and certain other measures that I'll get to in a future slide. This is just a reminder of who is in the urban renewal district. So there's actually a lot more residential area than some people might realize. It's definitely mostly downtown Livingston, but we've got, sort of on the outskirts in these two blocks here that include a lot of current existing residential areas, as well as all Sacagawea and Miles Park. Just an overview on program eligibility. All of this is in the applications as well, but just wanted to sort of highlight. What do we consider a residential unit? It's a dwelling or living accommodation for one or more individuals. Each unit has to have ability to have city utility service, as well as a place to shower and wash dishes. Just trying to come up with ways to make sure that these are going to be livable for people. What types of units is this program for? The applicants must evidence a plan to bring the units to a long-term, which we've so far defined as greater than 3 months, rental market. It's not for short-term or overnight rentals. Funding preference shall be given to projects that can contain affordability measures. And this is a new number that I just heard from City Manager Gager. An example is if we were to allow up to 100% AMI, then it would be $1,750 a month for 2 people a household. That's just one example of what the state and now the city has adopted as affordable. Who can apply? The building owners or other parties with a real property interest in a property within that district in the map. And then the building permit has to either have been issued within 30 days or not at all. So it's not for past projects. Just wanted to give some examples of, actually, maybe I should ask before we, does anyone have any questions about this slide here? I've never run one of these before, so I want to make sure I'm giving you the right time to comment, but there's only a couple more slides left, so feel free to, yes, I was gonna say, raise the hand.
Determine 3 months or more. I mean, in the future, or do you do a deed restriction on these things or project or what?
I have answered this question before. Let me see exactly what we said. I'm sorry. Basically, part of the application process and the agreement, the contract signed, states that URA will have access to the information on the rentals. So we may at some point we can use either city personnel or maybe hire a third party to double check that those in this program are meeting those measures.
So there's no such thing as building a unit and 5 years down the road, you decide to turn it into a hotel suite or something like that.
There is, we have a year limit, right? 5 years, is it?
I believe there is a limit on that, but I'm not quite sure
There's a certain amount of years it has to remain on the long-term market, and then we allowed it to go. The short term. 10 years.
Things get, and then, for example, in my case, I have, in the summer months, it is, I don't call it short term, I call it, small business lodging. Tourist lodging, but then in the winter, it can go several months. You know, because the market isn't there for the tourism.
That
So
is-
it varies from part of the year to the other part of the year.
Sure. This program is definitely aimed towards people that are local year round. It could, the 3 months is saying, like, maybe it could be a 3-month. I know some places have 3-month leases to get through summer workforce housing, and then the rest of the year is on a different type of lease. But that is still gearing towards the local economy and rather than tourists, for this program in particular.
Right.
And the overall statement I should say is if someone brings, say, 10 units to market and they want to keep some of those short term, that we're not saying that's not okay. We're just saying that's not there. Those units will not be eligible for the grant funding. So I will make a note to
For
see,
how long is the question?
How long?
And-
Okay.
And if there's variety of uses, for example, 3 months in which it's long-term rental and 5 months in which it's lodging, you know, for the tourism or anything
Okay.
else.
I
Is that 3 months? I don't understand the 3 months at all,
these units are not meant for lodging
but it says 3 months.
minimum. So
Yeah,
3
but,
months
I mean,
minimum.
Yeah, is there language that specifies that?
I wrote it down. I'll get back to you.
Okay,
So we also
curious.
just to know, I thought we had a limit in here for the amount of time it had to remain, but maybe Grant took it out when he did the final guidelines.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have it written in this exact document. As a reminder, this document it's a pilot, so it was, some things were intentionally vague until we learn more from the audience that we're trying to reach. So that's what tonight's all about. So I definitely wrote down the question. We could talk about it and hear other people's ideas on that. Just quickly moving forward, gathered a couple examples of possible residential projects that fit in our district, townhomes, and these might be completely residential, but as you can skinny, so you could fit more on one block. Then we've got a mixed use with commercial. That could be retail, restaurant on the bottom, and then residential up top. And there are plenty of existing buildings downtown that have this option, and that's really where this program stemmed from before we heard more feedback from the community. We initially were just reaching out to those that had second and third floor units that maybe used to be housing or hotels that could be converted, and this program was meant to help offset the costs of that conversion. So that's another example, but then also within this district, there are potentials for accessory dwelling units behind houses or further on accessory dwelling units. Just some examples that was used in a presentation the other week about types of different ADUs, and so this could be potentially eligible for the program as well.
What's ADU, sorry.
Accessory dwelling unit, so it's part of an existing residence and it makes up not more than I think 70% of that residence's space. But it's a separate unit, could be attached or detached, and it goes out to the rental market in our case for eligibility. Okay. So we can open it up now to a discussion. Anyone might have questions for us, or we also have questions for you, some that I came up with, and maybe the board might have some more. Does this program seem like a fit with you? Basically, fit for you. Why are you here? Is this applying to you directly? Or how else can this program work or not work for you? Why or why not? What more would you like to know from us about? What would you like to know more about from us before deciding? Such as Patricia's question, is anybody ready to apply? We have applications. And just note, like with an application, it's not, it's meant to be a conversation. We will be working out specific contracts with each project. So it's not like your application is just, that's it, and we've applied or we accept or deny. We can definitely have conversations with people during the application process to try and find a good fit. That is all for my little presentation. Does anyone on the board have anything else to add or ask about?
No, I think we'll cover it. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Okay, so we definitely love to hear what brought you to this meeting. I do think, you know, we have enough time and a great amount of people here that we could hear from everyone if you're willing or wanting to share. And this part is not necessarily like the public comment where you have to come up and stand up here. We do have a sign-in sheet though, if you want to include your name and email and potential areas of interest or follow-up that we can keep in touch with you on this. So that could sort of happen towards the end, but otherwise, who wants to go next?
I have a question.
Sure.
My name is Catherine Daly. I am the Flood County Housing Coalition Program Manager, and I was just kind of curious because I know that the city has been undergoing this downtown master planning process. And I know housing is a component of that process, and I attended one of the events related to that, but I wasn't really sure what the information that was, collected from other participants and throughout that process said about sort of the housing component of the plan or what was learned. And I don't know if those findings have been digested yet, but if there's anything to share at this point, that could sort of help inform how people are thinking about utilizing this funding source in a way that comports with the downtown master planning process. I'd be curious to hear about that. But also if that's forthcoming and we should wait on that to a time in the future, let me know as well. Just want to make sure I'm understanding sort of how these things fit together and the degree to which they do.
Yes. We, the URA did have a specific workshop with the downtown master planning group. And so we were able to vocalize our own visions for the board and what we'd like to see, and then hear from other urban renewal districts on what they've done. And then, launch and just sort of like strategic planning, nothing finalized. And I haven't heard, I know they were doing a really great job of at each event, they shared some updated feedback from the community. I haven't seen any official feedback forms yet. I don't think they're ready for that. And I do think they're planning to come back out at the beginning of the year, January, February.
Maybe
Maybe even
on the
sooner.
website, they just say to the 25 that they.
Sure.
Compile it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. And so I guess a question might be like, when that information is shared, if it's shared with, say, the URA board, because we were part of the meetings, will that same information shared with us, it'll hopefully be publicized. None of this is secret.
It'll be on the plan website.
So on the planning
It'll
website.
Go out, it'll be in the city manager's newsletter and much, yeah.
So downtownlivingston.org/plan. But I will say that, because the
On
URA,
the website. It's handy dandy little part.
oh yes, because the URA was a funding partner for this downtown master plan, it was one of the contingencies that we needed to be included in the planning process so that it wouldn't be a separate strategy. So it's definitely happened so far through several touch points and then individual conversations with the board members as well. So hopefully we can hear more soon. And they had a great visual on like utilization, I would say, on the map. And there's only one tiny area of the downtown master plan study area that is not within the URA, but 90-something% of it is within the URA. So it's definitely all working towards the same goals. And some of that will be housing and some will be also just more long-term development. Yes.
Okay. I sound like a broken record, sorry about that. But I'm going to say, really, I helped create the URA. I was on the URA board and I've been on the city commission as a representative to the URA from the city commission. I can't how disappointed I am in this project because it was meant to help us get rid of the blight, and that was what it was meant to do. Now, I had rented short-term rentals, which I absolutely object to that term. That's a HRDC term that is not in the dictionary. But I have rented for 20 years. I restored the Gray Bowl and I rented affordable housing. I've said to this board time after time, it no longer pencils out. By the time we pay for our taxes, we pay for increased energy costs. I just want to say, please.
I just want to say, this feels more like public comment, in which we'll have a section for public comment, but with the discussion on the program as it exists, I would like to save this area for open discussion, and then public comment is different.
Let me say this, please. So I'm saying this has been done without a study, economic study at all for short-term rentals. It has been done without a study for any kind of impact on the long-term effect of blight in downtown Livingston. It will create blight in downtown Livingston. It will, because it doesn't pencil out. So I want to say that you've had feedback from the business community. I've been here to almost every meeting. And there is some sort of impetus to make this continue on a course that we never wanted. And our public comment has always said, we don't want this. And yet it continues. So I don't understand how it got to this point with as much public comment that this board has gotten. We want to develop our second story, but we want it to pencil out so that people don't lose their businesses.
You are welcome to develop, anyone is welcome to develop however they would like. We are creating an incentive program, and I respectfully disagree that every single person said they didn't want to see it. So I would like to open back up to the room, those who might be interested, those who might have questions. We're certainly still open for feedback to change the program.
Please.
But with the program as it is remaining for
Why
now.
couldn't you change it to like the Great Blues apartments? Why couldn't you change it to apartments? And then as the need arises for that owner, sometimes it could be short-term rentals, sometimes it could be long-term rentals. And it allows, if you can give that owner that kind of flexibility, then you are actually getting rid of blight. If you do not give the owner flexibility, and that's only this 3 month, let people develop that as apartments. And then let them decide, depending on the market, depending on whether we're down 20%, all the business decisions that have to be made. Why wouldn't we allow for owner flexibility?
We are attempting to subsidize the cost that people are losing from turning it strictly to the most profitable version of what that could be. So everyone's allowed to do that if they would like to. This
But
great, they don't need our
long-term
funding
rentals
then. They can use our, they
don't
can,
cancel out. Sometimes,
Okay.
sometimes they.
I have to open up the room. Thank you. In the back.
Yeah, if you guys receive applications that are in excess of your guys' budget, how do you plan on ranking the applications?
Great question. That is why we opened up this pilot program, because so far that hasn't happened. So there is a program, there is a matrix in the back of is like a scoring rubric, basically. Just pull this up. So, some of the compliances are just a yes or no. Is it in the district? Is the owner applying? Other are how many units brought to market, type of improvements that they're applying for, the amounts that it would cost, and then the time of commencement, time of completion. And what we've noticed with the facade grant is it's been on a rolling basis, and it's all it's hard to assess timelines. A lot of projects that we thought might have been finished 2 years ago are still ongoing. And so we're just going to do the best we can and keep in touch with people on their projected and expected timeframes so that we can, give out as much as possible every fiscal year without reserving money for a project that's not going to happen in that year.
How much do you?
Yeah.
How much do you have per year?
So this is a number that, I've heard a couple different answers on, so I'm gonna double check the city manager.
So if construction costs continue to, have you in the process of evaluating this, have you any idea of an average construction cost per an upstairs unit of any particular building? In other words, you know, have you been given any numbers of potential cost?
We have, but is anyone in the room that wants to answer that one too?
I can speak to that. It would
That'd be great, thank you.
my, it's not the structure that you're getting. What the existing infrastructure is it? And throwing a blended number out per unit is not going to be arbitrary.
Thank you. We're not talking about the price of a house for $400,000. There is I mean, you're talking about multiple units, so it's gotta be more.
Scale helps. So if you're doing infrastructure, maybe infrastructure costs in thermal insulation, roofing, HVAC systems, plumbing systems, electrical wiring. If you're doing 16 units, your cost per unit is lower than it would be if you have 3 units. Obviously, it's not exactly linear, but definitely based on what your square cost per unit cost is going to be less expensive. Yes. If you're doing 3 units and your plumbing infrastructure upgrades cost you $140,000, that's a big chunk.
Other questions or ideas in the room?
Hi,
Hi, and you are welcome to share your name if you would like and sort of
my name is Kirsten.
your association
And I
or
was
you
at
don't have
the
to.
planning meeting of FIFO.
Okay.
And you were at my
Yes.
table. And I saw the flyer and I own a home within the district. And it's one of the homes that you guys had a term for that the existing unit is less than 25% of the land, you know?
Hmm.
So that's why it sort of piqued my interest, because I thought, well, you know, I thought about maybe putting an ADU in the back, and I'd like to help the rental market, but it's not something that I could afford to do on my own. So is this something where I, you know, if it works out, like, if there are guidelines that say, okay, well, sure, you could add a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom ADU based off of your lot size, and then get estimates for a build and then apply for the program grant? Is it just as simple as that, or?
Yes,
Okay.
I guess I'll jump in here too. So again, nice to meet you. So one thing that the Park County Housing Coalition is working on is to help work with folks like you who might be considering constructing or renovating an existing structure on your parcel to develop an accessory dwelling unit. And we are trying to develop materials to help folks like you navigate that process across the county and specifically within the city of Livingston. Sounds like that's something the city of Livingston has been hearing a lot of interest in. And so we want to help facilitate that and make that process easy to navigate, because that's rather complicated. And Jen, if you want to hop in here with some additional information, you're absolutely welcome to. But yeah, we're currently in the process of refining and developing materials to help facilitate that. Jen, do you have anything you want to add?
Is that okay?
of course, yes.
Just for for the accessory dwelling units, the specifics of them and whether or not your lot size is large enough, the size of the accessory dwelling units that are allowed in the city of Livingston. The state legislature last spring came up with some new requirements and considerations for accessory dwelling units. So we are in the process of drafting updates to our code based on those. The size allowance of ADUs accessory dwelling units are going to change a little bit. So I would just I would encourage you, if you're thinking about it, I know what they're going to be come January 1st. We're gonna be bringing these forward soon through the advisory board process, because there was a policy which or tweak to our current policy based on what the state came back with. So those are gonna be going through advisory boards and the city commission in the very near future. Advisory board being the zoning commission. And I would just say, give me a call, email me, whatever. I'm the city planner. And I am happy to look at your particular property with you and help you figure out if you're eligible for the ADU. And then I can tell you kind of based on what's there already, if you do have an existing dwelling, what size allowance you'd be allowed for that accessory dwelling unit, that sort of thing. But ultimately, it'll be the code, the city code update that will kind of determine the ADU sizes and whether or not you're allowed to have them. Does that make sense? Helpful?
Do you have an email that you're sharing for that we can direct people to?
Anyway,
And the email that we
my
should direct
email,
them?
yeah, you can email
Planning
planner at
or planning at livingstonmontana.org.
planning. I'm
I
sorry,
think
it
it's
might be
planning.
I don't check that email
Yes.
but often, but it's planning. You can also email city manager. That's easier. Sorry, Grant. Email city manager at livingstonmontana.org, all spelled out, and just put attention planning or ADU question, and he will probably almost immediately forward that to me. But I'm also, if you come by after this, if you're interested, I can give you a card and my email and all that, or you can give me your email and I'll read them.
Nice. And you can also sign in on our sheet too, and we'll make sure we're just checking in with the people that have expressed interest over the months. So just a lot of touch points. And sorry, Catherine.
I just wanted to like draw out something that Jennifer was saying, which it sounds like it would be advantageous to start thinking about this, but that some changes to the city's code as it pertains to accessory dwelling units will be taking effect, not instantaneously, but in the near future. And
They actually will go into effect January 1st, regardless of we
Oh,
have ours or they have.
yes, but that won't happen until January 1st. Yeah, so you've got a little time
Yeah.
to get some ducks in a row and start thinking about this.
Another thing I just wanted to note on budget is, I'm still waiting to hear back on that number, but the budget is still going to include both programs, so it will adjust based on the applicants in both programs. We're not gonna eliminate the facade program or the blight program that the URA was also like, but the encouragement of redevelopment of residential spaces is specifically listed in the 2003 plan that created the URA, so that's where the original idea for this program came from. Any other questions in the crowd
What
or
is your
comments?
total budget?
That is what I said. I'm just waiting to hear back on that
I
final
think
number.
we said 1.3 million at a farmer meeting.
And it changes every year based upon the taxable value of the district,
Yeah.
which is what the
My
blight program. Any comments here or in the crowd, still questions?
Yeah, there's specific project elements that would be excluded from grant funding.
Be excluded?
Yeah, or maybe it's easier what project elements are included or would qualify for grant funding.
Yes. I would say the elements that we have stated, which is not limited, but we've stated access, development impact fees, down payments for loans, interior improvements, heating and air conditioning systems, life safety systems, structural improvements, and utility connection costs. And then facade things are facade grant potentially eligible, so that'd be more like windows, exterior work.
You're saying that that was exclusives that could be larger than other elements of projects, they need to qualify.
It could be, and I would be curious to hear what you have in mind, or if you'd like to share now or separately.
Well, the list I thought was a little broad with the down payment on the loan and then specific items listed after that. So I wasn't sure if they're, what I would be included, say, if you had to redo your roof. It's not a heating element, it's not a life safety thing, but, it's still would go into the initial loan payment. Did that qualify or was that excluded?
Does the roof have to change because of the development of these units?
I just throw an example.
Sure.
Specific project.
It's not limited to what was listed here. So. Worth, asking when the time comes. There's some other faces I don't think I've met yet in the room. Or anyone online interested in sharing or asking?
He's gonna unmute.
Yeah,
There we go.
might just be observing too, that's okay. No questions here? Any other board members have a question for the audience members?
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement. It does seem like the vagueness of our document is a little deterring to some folks, and it's a pilot program, so we kind of left it open specifically for that reason, so we can engage in conversations and find out what maybe we need to clarify about certain things that are on the guidelines. So I would say, don't let that keep you from opening up a conversation with us. If you do wind up with a project in mind or have questions about whether you qualify, definitely still email us and discuss, because this is the launch of an entirely new program that we've never done before. So the questions and the pushback are helpful, because we want to make sure we can create something that people are going to use in the future. So thank you guys for pointing out some of the less clear aspects of the guidelines, and definitely just please don't let that deter you from reaching out to us and having a conversation to see if you're eligible.
Yes, and our email is ura@livingstonmontana.org, and I would also have you put city manager at livingstonmontana.org on the emails, just to make sure we get them.
In the past, how frequently do you end up distributing all of the budgeted money to business owners? Or do you execute the full allotment typically, or is it something usually in the fiscal year with reserves?
It's a great question. I don't have all the back data for the last 20 years, but I know in my tenure, which is coming up on its 4th year, we have not reached our max budget any of the years that I've been in place.
Noting that, it seems like the openness and the flexibility that you have right now, this pilot program is probably super beneficial, because it seems like it's an underutilized asset. And maybe that's a lack of people being informed, business owners being informed, property owners being informed. But I think that flexibility is probably the strength of this. Until you get to a point where you are giving out all your money in Q1. And
Exactly. That's kind of why we kept it that way too. Thank you for pointing that out. Because we do usually want, well, at least since we've been here for the last couple of years, have wound up with reserves after the facade grant programs have been paid out. So that's also a reason why we're trying to keep it a little bit more flexible, so we don't deter everyone with very strict guidelines and wind up with no applicants. So we're in, kind of the gray area of trying to figure out and trying to get people in the door. But yes, conversations are welcome.
Yes.
And that would be welcome if you would be a little more flexible in a lot of, since this is a pilot program. If you were to find out that this didn't work as well, and there weren't as many applicants, you might modify at
Sure.
some point, which
We
would be
just-
certainly welcome. I do think inadvertently, the city has absolutely not supported small business lodging. And in fact, has supported to a business corporate lodging outside of the city. Marriott, all the corporate lodging, when we are single, we have about 600 million that comes into Park County every year as a tourist, for tourists. We're pretty much just primarily a tourist town. And yet at this point, the city is encouraging corporate lodging outside the city limits, as opposed to not encouraging small business lodging within the city limits. I mean, it's an unintended consequence to the kind of policy that they have created. if there were some kind of flexibility on this as we move into the future, with with the 600 million coming into our town, it puts the downtown businesses at a disadvantage as opposed to an advantage. So I just wanted to say, it would be wonderful if you've learned that there could be a little more flexibility
Heard,
on this as you evolve.
heard. It could be 90% towards lodging and 10% towards longer term, and we would address the 10% with this pilot program. We've talked in the past, some have heard at the meetings about, Lisa's idea was to have sort of an application timeframe. So that's something that would help in terms of like when to decide, you know, is this a success or not? But at this time, without any, well, quotes are still in progress. We have a good deal of interest. They're getting quotes, kind of working with architects and developers, and things are in motion. So we're not ready to call it quits yet, I would say. And I do have an answer. I have an answer on the budget question, which is that it's right now it's at $450,000 a year in our net income for the URA, but there's also $1 million in fund balance available for grants. So that's almost $1.5 million, and the balance is from years past that carried over.
Okay, are you concerned with the whole city or just the downtown district? Because the Marriott is in the city and Murdoch is in the city.
No,
Oh, you,
we are very limited to the URA district, which was that map I had up earlier. I can reshare my screen.
The map is also on this flyer as well.
they are in the city.
It's in the city, but it's not the entire
Not the
city.
URA district.
This is our district here.
Yeah, get that straight.
And they do not contribute.
We don't.
The only people that contribute to the TIF fund is people who have businesses in the downtown.
Correct.
So they.
Or residents.
They add a lot to the tourism factor.
Sorry,
The Marriott and all these other places add a lot to the tourism factor. And the city is gonna grow, and it's probably gonna grow to the south.
we're just limited to our
We
district.
just can't let it be just-
And that's where they get
just
the
say
grant.
that, you know,
It's money that comes from the district, so it stays within the district. It's a great question, though.
Yeah.
Any other discussion items for today? I don't want anyone to leave here feeling like they had something they wish they'd asked, or this was a waste of time or something like that. I really think everyone's here for a reason, so don't be shy to share your reason or your questions, or even just a point of feedback. Or feel free to include an email for updates or for questions.
This is a question from pure ignorance, but what is the fiscal year end for the city?
June 30th. We are in fiscal year 24 right now.
And you don't know how long the person commits to this, how long do they have to stay committed, how many years?
That was a great question that we are going to find out and clarify. It's not stated at the moment.
And then she had a really good question about if they rent it out for 3 months or 6 months or 7 months, and then be able to do vacation rentals for the summer. Is that gonna be included in on that, or what, you know, I mean, what she's talking about is.
Well, it'd be lodging, small business lodging. Yeah. They call it vacation, but it's really lodging,
Yeah, I think we can clarify on that, but the original
but
intention was
it's not
to,
corporate lodging, it's small business.
yeah, the original intention was to keep it on the long-term housing rental, meaning the leases would be 3 months or longer, because that was, sure,
I can't hear you.
yeah. I think we can clarify that in the guidelines or answer any questions, but the original intention was to keep the leases 3 months plus, because long-term housing was identified as an issue within Livingston itself as part of what was it, the city study or something? I don't know.
On the growth policy.
Yes, the growth policy, in the growth policy. So we identified that as the issue and kept the guidelines to reflect that. The issue was, people couldn't stay here for a very long time. So that's why we included. Sorry.
Oh, no, obviously not everybody, but we're just saying there's a lot of opportunity in the downtown district for housing. And instead of small business lodging, this program is for work, could be for workforce housing. So people that work within the district and can't find housing, maybe they don't have cars. This could be a way for people to employ more within the district.
There are 140 apartments.
Okay.
In downtown Livingston right now that are affordable.
Inactive use, Patricia.
But
Inactive use. There's 140 inactive
Yes.
use. Does anyone have a figure on how many, underutilized apartments there are downtown?
well,
There, so as part of the downtown master plan, they did study underutilized parcels in general. And I have heard numbers tossed around of how many units. It was in the 200s, but that's not to say all of them could be converted. It's like at one time, that was the amount of units, but with nowadays codes and on all the rules, you know, sizes of unit might have to change or things like that. So I don't really have an exact number for nowadays,
So,
but it's,
so if you're in that district and the building there that's not really optimally used, can you tear down the old building and build a whole new building like 15 units in that building area?
it's allowed.
I suppose we're not stopping people from doing that. The way we've been hearing so far and what we were building this pilot was for those buildings that already existed that weren't tear downs, but had upper level spaces potential, and then empty lots where there could be the potential for a build up infill development.
Yeah.
But if someone had a good plan for what,
That's
Sorry,
what you
didn't-
said. Yeah, when you tear the building down, then, then you have.
then you have an empty lot, yes. So come to us after it's torn down. We don't want to be on record as encouraging tear downs of historic buildings, but. And a lot of our district is also, has to comply with the historical preservation committee, at least the downtown part, so that's to keep in mind too.
Just a facade.
Just the facade of it, yes, but I'm just saying you couldn't build up totally whatever you wanted if you tore down
Any exterior improvements,
any,
any exterior improvements.
have to be
Exterior,
improved,
but not interior.
yes.
Yeah, but not.
Oh, yeah, it could be totally modern, but it has to look like it's from 1800s on the house.
I believe Dave Miller has a question.
Okay, Dave,
Oh,
Or-
hi.
hi, good to see you.
Thanks for recognizing me. I want to make just a couple of real general statements. I'm real excited about the ADU concept, just because there's so many new developments around the country of possibilities of construction, and they're modern and it serves the community really well. I want to caution you that what I've noticed is some communities add a whole bunch of fees on there, and so it can get real expensive to put the ADUs in. And it's important to be prudent about it and have regulations, but any help you can give to the property owners to mitigate some of the cost of all the inspections and all the different processes that goes on would be very useful. As far as the downtown goes, I'm really concerned. The old buildings are very expensive to rehab. And then once you do, then you have kids playing ball in front of the house, and it's not very favorable living for the residents. And it's much more favorable if they can live around the community and not just right in the downtown. And that's a win-win for the residents, and it's a win-win for the downtown, because many of the downtown people are very against having the lower price housing downtown, and so it'd be a win-win to go to the newer places. Sometimes those are cheaper to construct, and they're much nicer, much more modern, and so forth. The other thing that I hope that we emphasize big time is that we're not trying to provide Bozeman housing. We're trying to provide number one housing for people and for good citizens in Livingston, particularly the workforce housing, the city, the police, the fire department, senior citizens that have lived in the community forever, and so forth. And I think it's really important that they have priority. They have a lot of skin in the game, and it's really important to the community to have the police officers and the nurses, et cetera, the teachers living closer to the community. And so there's a big win-win there, and there should be some priority there. So we don't want to have a situation where it's cheaper than Bozeman, so people are traveling, and that's not very sustainable either, to have people going back and forth to Bozeman, back and forth to Bozeman. It should be all about the local good community people. And yes, everybody right now needs affordability because it's expensive for everybody to live. So that's kind of my 2 bits.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead and answer. Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't really hear a question. I just wrote down all of your notes and have them in mind for sure.
The part, I see that the new law, you don't have to have parking. That's the state law. Is that after law to this area or what? I didn't quite.
Okay, so what I've heard is a majority of our district is in the central business district, which means there aren't as many restrictions on residential construction, no height limit, and it's 1 parking per household. So even if it's a multi-unit, there's only 1 required parking unit.
Okay, because I know a lot of downtown.
Or sorry,
irritated.
I'm gonna let Jen
I need
reaffirm.
to make something really clear. Currently, accessory dwelling units are not allowed in the central business district. So, because there's no density restrictions. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about ADUs. I would maybe kind of separate this from that a little bit, because there's a good portion of your district where they are not currently allowed as a use.
There are some that can have ADUs in the
So,
district.
There's some restrictions on residential development in the downtown. A certain numbers of units in the central business district, it needs to be higher, multifamily, a minimum of 3 units, or you can have 1 that's a mixed use for new construction. So this program, my understanding from your meetings and kind of talking with Brand about it, is really the focus right now is on rehabbing existing spaces, correct?
It could also be new construction.
Okay, so if it is new construction, I would just, maybe those people who are in the central business district, zoning district, and if you're not sure, I'm happy to help you figure that out. ADUs right now are not an allowed use. So the comment I'm glad that you brought that up, sir. After January 1st, accessory dwelling units can no longer we cannot require an off-street parking space for residential dwelling unit or for an accessory dwelling unit. Additionally, impact fees, we will no longer be able to charge any impact fees. Currently, we charge 50%. So we waive 50% of the impact fees for new accessory dwelling units. After January 1st, we cannot charge any impact fees for accessory dwelling units. That is something to keep in mind as well. It's because then if they're applying for a grant from you, there's other places to use that if they are looking at an accessory dwelling unit. So I didn't mean to muddy the waters, but that's kind of important.
That was good. And that helps maybe Dave with your comment about the expense of creating one with the no impact fees.
For an accessory dwelling unit.
Or specifically an accessory dwelling unit.
I have a quick question. Since I did rent affordable housing for 20 years, almost everyone was from Bozeman that applied. Almost every single person in 20 years. Because we were cheaper. And then the market would even itself out and then they'd go back. how, is there any limitation? If this is gonna be a Livingston program, that you have to be in Livingston, you have to. Does this application say anything about that?
No, right now, we're not restricting, we're giving the money to folks to rehabilitate the spaces or to use them, for the units, but we're not limiting what they then turn around and do in terms of the long-term rental, not at the moment.
Just the income restriction. If it's an AMI requirement, then those applicants have to meet the AMI requirements. And
But
so
it's not
we haven't, it's not location based.
So workforce housing could be Bozeman workforce housing.
I will
If
add though that,
that's how you
so
wanna
area
work it out.
median income is determined based on specific geography. So our area median income in Park County is substantially lower
Yeah.
than the set area median income in Gallatin County. So 100% area median income for a two-person household is something like $70,000
Yeah.
a year here. In Bozeman, I can't remember what it is for a two-person household, but for a four-person household, I think it's like $130-some thousand a year. Whereas for a four-person household here, it's like 84,000. So just in that specification, that it's 100% of area median income for Park County, it limits the applicant according to
Yeah.
their earnings in a way that could, theoretically, in some respects, differentiate them from those earners.
Yeah.
And also, to Patricia's comment, that is something you all could consider moving forward if it seemed like there was an interest or a need in having local workforce or local work requirements for specific homes created under this program, then that is certainly.
I definitely have heard that comment before. My question would be, what if someone gets a new job? Like I worked in Bozeman for 3 months last year, but I'd be disqualified from that program. Especially when jobs are changing and there's a lot of seasonality. It's hard. So I think it's a great intention, and maybe data points like the AMI can help with trying to keep this Park County and Livingston as local as possible, but I just think it's hard enough to keep, people's incomes are changing over months and seasons, so I think it's a very valid point, and I personally hope that this program is for local workforce housing and similar.
And I will reiterate, if you go that route, you're gonna have a more involved and complex compliance process.
Right.
And is that worthwhile?
Who's gonna administer them?
Also,
Who the renters are.
exactly, and
Units.
is that a good and
Well,
useful outcome?
I know for myself, I applied for an apartment, and I live in an apartment 1 block outside of the URA. And they asked my job when I first applied, but it's since changed. No one's asked me what my new jobs are. Like, it's just, it would be maybe on an annual basis, but then again, if people are changing throughout the year, or they might have 2 jobs and one's in Livingston and one's in Bozeman part-time. So I think the point is everyone's trying to make it work, and having housing in Livingston could mean that people spend more money here in Livingston, because this could be their community, even if they work in Bozeman. Right.
The research is contrary to that. I just done this research over.
But so much is changing even in what's available downtown to shop at. So I think that all the research is changing.
The only
mean,
reason
there-
I'm able to keep my building is that I turned part of it into a hotel. I could lose my building because it has gotten so expensive. And that's true of the other owners of buildings. In addition, you have people who have businesses. They don't want residential people. They want more businesses. They really don't like the Miles building because it is not a business. And the people that I always ask are people at John Fryer's. They have such a litmus to what is happening to the business community. It's gonna die. So.
I think it's gonna change. I don't think it's gonna die.
Survive as a downtown business, I had to have that hotel option. And
I
I'm just
don't
thinking,
judge you for it.
Are these like some of the questions that might be spoken to in the results of the downtown master planning process?
It was talked to by the businesses, when all the businesses got together for breakfast, and we were pretty much on the same page.
You mean, the questions that we're asking about this program, or just in general about the
Yeah, just about like
restrictions?
how, the vitality of downtown and.
Oh, the
how it
economic
affects
research,
that
yes.
and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
That's
what I'm
a huge part of the downtown master plan is the economic development portion and research and the, what's the word I'm looking for, like the potential of, underutilized spaces or underutilized units within spaces. So they've been gathering all that data already, the parking, and like their finding was that we have enough parking, it's just not properly managed, and some of it's private that maybe could be entering into agreements. And so hopefully a lot of these will be a lot more clear with current data when that downtown master plan is released. And it will inform the future of URA with community feedback. So community feedback is still ongoing for the downtown master plan. So we're listening to all this. People can also send these notes into downtown master plan, downtownlivingston.org/plan, take a plan. And like, you could just fire off the thought, and it could be the night before the plan is released, and you could fire off the thought to them, and they are quick and they will consider it if it's a good idea or a good thing to include in the plan. It's hopefully going to be a great resource, and the URA is directly involved in the strategy and in the implementation really of the plan. And so it's important for us that we're hearing and we're seeing that holistic view, and definitely not excluding, we're not just only housing, it's just, this is one program that we've released in the most recent future, but we also care about the economic vitality of downtown Livingston. Our main purpose is to make sure the taxable revenue increases. Or the taxable value, I'm sorry.
And I just to kind of support what this program is doing, the focus right now being on the residential long term. The growth policy, the city's adopted growth policy strategy 3.1.1.1 is to encourage additional density within the downtown area of the city. Now that doesn't mean, there's other places in the growth policy that talk about commercial development, focusing the majority of commercial development in the downtown, including mixed uses for neighborhoods surrounding it and elsewhere in the city, so that people are able to walk to those things that they and their needs in a walkable area on a daily basis. But there is support in the growth policy for encouraging residential development. In this case, a lot of it may be redevelopment of residential spaces. But I just want to make that clear, that is in the city's adopted growth policy.
Is that in the housing action?
Thank you very much.
Policy itself.
I'm not looking at that part of it. I'm looking at the policy itself right now. It's under objective 3.1.1. I don't know if the housing action plan actually puts that CBD or not.
Thank you. Any further comments in the room or online?
How many applications do you have today?
We don't have any, I would say we have no applicants, but we have, we have a good amount of interest, like ongoing emails, personal conversations that have come up, in person. And so a lot of those people were invited to come tonight. Not everyone could make it. So, but we have, I think maybe even a dozen interested.
And that's 3 or 4 that I've
3 or 4, and I've gotten a few, and then Grant's gotten a few, so.
Is this program being done in other areas of the country or Montana?
Yes,
So you really don't have to reinvent the wheel?
no,
Okay, so do they have specific guidelines that the person will follow? Any kind of planners, do they have an idea of what it's gonna totally look like? Or not? I mean, you sound pretty unsure about how long you have to be in the program, or how, if you can just do a part of the year or whatever. They don't deal with these in other areas, or not?
that is just a very specific question that came up tonight that hasn't really been discussed before, so it's not that we are avoiding the answer, we just need to come up with an answer on that. And we maybe need to do more research on that specific question. A lot of the research was more about, types of funding, how they issue the funding, what type of units they allow, mixed use, commercial. I mean, Missoula is a different case than ours because there's a much bigger city, but, we've been looking into the other cities in Montana. And then, we've started doing research in other areas as well, but our most important research is with people here that are interested in developing their spaces.
And we do have guidelines, so I encourage you to take one of these documents on your way out.
Yeah, please have them.
The reason it's a little open-ended is because it's a pilot program for us, but Grant Gager, our city manager, specifically wanted to do a residential rehab program because I think he has in the past, or has heard of them in the past. So he helped us a lot in developing these guidelines based on his prior
I mean, a
experience.
lot of people are that go to outside financing, so the mortgage companies and the banks, have they been involved with input on this program? Because you're gonna build a 16-unit deal or 2-unit deal. Everybody generally goes to a bank or a mortgage company or something for outside funding. And that's where those people have to be concerned about, is whether or not they can get funding because of being tied up for 10 years. They're gonna be less likely to give you the money and do it. Understand what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah. You're asking if what was the question, sorry?
Okay, the question is, the banks and mortgage companies on board with it?
I don't know that we specifically spoke to, you mean locally, like local?
Locally.
Social security
throughout
bank.
Montana, throughout the nation. That's a big issue.
You're saying it's a big issue as it relates back to the how many years are we keeping track of this program?
That's part of it. Yeah. And what they can expect in return on the money, if they're gonna be loaning money for, you go borrow $2 million or $10 million. They're gonna wanna know how long, what happens if things go into default and how they can recover their funds.
So we will, oh, sorry. No, go ahead. Well, I was gonna say, we will finalize this answer at some point of how long this has to be kept on the, long-term market, but the funding is meant to be delivered at the project completion. So we're not saying we're gonna hold on it and wait for you to rent it out for 10 years and then give you the money. So obviously the compliance
No.
part still has to be,
That's not what he's saying.
well, I'm misunderstanding, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, okay, they get the funding, and are you obligated to continue to do what you receive the grants for how long?
That's what I just said.
Okay,
That's what I said.
sorry.
Okay, so I do understand what you're asking, and I'm saying that the amount of time is what has been a big question tonight that we just haven't really had a lot of discussion about before. So we will get back to everyone on this. It's obviously very important, and I'm,
Okay.
any other questions or comments? There's a chat?
It's from over there.
Okay. Did that address?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, that sort of ends the discussion portion, but we still have a little bit of time for public comments. If there are any additional comments that haven't already been stated. Otherwise, we have board comments.
We are using city. We're the first entrance to the first national park in the world. And we had 20 hotels that sprung up for the 25 years that we were the only entrance to the first national park in the world. We have 20 hotels downtown that we're talking about. They aren't just average, everyday country, any place else in the country. It is not appropriate for us. In addition, we are a tourist town, and I have been trying to diversify this this economy for 20 years, it won't diversify. We have $600 million that comes into Park County every year, and that's our bread and butter. That's where we get our money. And it won't change much over a long period of time. So we are giving precedence. We are giving everything to corporate lodging. We are taking away from people like me who spent $750,000. I think it's a huge amount of money over 20 years into the T-bid. I've put into that T-bid for this whole time. And my business will not survive if it's affordable housing, period. I will give it to somebody. And the only way that I believe downtown Livingston will survive and my business will survive is that if part of my business turns into hotels.
I don't,
And
sorry.
so therefore, given our 600 million, we'll give it to Arthur Blank to build a lodging out in Paradise Valley, and we'll give it to other people, but we won't give it to small businesses who want to provide lodging. We will not do that for us, even though we put the money out to do that at URA. So it's disappointing to me because we are a unique town, 20 hotels downtown. They're made, we have 3,000 square feet of common area at the Great Bowl because they were lobbies. It just doesn't pencil out for the UA not to accommodate the possibility of an apartment that they can be rented out as a suite as well. It just doesn't give those building owners the kind of flexibility we have to stay alive. And that's why this is disappointing to me. And people, I'm an institutional member because it was my grandparents that built the Graybow. My father was named Harry Graybow after Harry Childs. We built Livingston at the same time they built all the buildings in Yellowstone. They were friends. It was all one and the same. We have a unique situation here. And it is incumbent, I think, upon this body to take into consideration who we are and what our structures are downtown. And to at least be a little bit flexible with the money that we have put into this over a long period of time. And I'm adamant only because after 20 years of hard work, if this process goes through and we turn downtown Livingston into housing projects, then our effort will be vain because we won't be able to make it. And our downtown take a look at Belgrade. We would be if we did it the other way, we wouldn't turn into Belgrade or Columbus, where our downtown is gone over a long period of time. We have to be economically viable. And I'm adamant about it because I've worked for 20 years of my life creating something and putting into this organization, and then to have them just say, oh, you're of no consequence. Doesn't matter that you keep your building or your downtown. But if we follow the other route, we would actually flourish. We would get investors, we would flourish, and we would be viable, but this is not it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Can I ask you a clarifying question?
Sure.
Is Patricia, as your business is at this point, is the Graybow exempt from like the facade improvement dollars because they don't do long-term rentals?
No,
No, it's not facade. It's
Yeah.
just if people like me want to develop something like the Graybow.
may I, yeah, do you have,
No, that was.
may I have a clear, are you suggesting that the URA's money goes towards things like helping you develop your hotel?
What I'm asking URA's money to do, if you want to develop apartments in downtown Livingston, do so. But give the owners the flexibility to say, Well, this year I'm gonna have it as hotels. 8 of my apartments are gonna be suites, and next year, who knows? Because it's just too hard to keep these buildings going. It's too expensive. Plumbing is a fortune. Boilers are a fortune. Roofing is a fortune. So you're giving the building owners no mixed use options, no options in terms of what they will do. And you're giving, as Chuck said, banks aren't gonna like it at all. Just give those building owners that option. And they'll make those decisions. But if they cannot become hotel rooms as well, then you're not giving them the kinds of things they need to survive. The options, financial options.
Thank you very much. If there are no further public or board comments, I will ask if there is a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
So move second. Second. All in favor, aye. Okay, aye. We will continue looking into all these answers and invite you to come to future URA meetings to hear more updates. Thank you very much for all your contributions. Thank you, Catherine. I'm not sure if you're gonna do December.